Welcome back to the Real Talk Corner podcast, where we dive deep into personal journeys and topics that can inspire and transform us on a mind, body, soul, and spirit level. I'm your host, Ariana Gutierrez, and today I'm joined with a remarkable guest, Madhavi Parikh. She's a physician assistant who has transitioned from the conventional medical space to offering clinical coaching for individuals on their cancer journey. She excels in translating the complex clinical and emotional language of cancer into terms that are easy to understand, empowering her clients with insights into their diagnosis by considering their spiritual, physical, intellectual, and emotional health. Additionally, she bridges the gap between conventional and complementary alternative medicine, meeting people where they are and are guiding them through their healing journey. Join us as we explore her journey, the holistic approach she uses, and the profound impact she's making in the lives of those facing cancer. You don't want to miss this episode. The Real Talk Corner. We back. We in the building. As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, fighting my way through the darkness where the wicked don't rest. Conscious aware, truth I dare, shield tied to my chest. My tenacity gon' put these motherfuckers to the test. High priestess of fire, alchemistic desire. I stay manifesting shit, even when I am tired. You can call me amazing, by the bricks I be laying, but you'll never call me lazy, cause my vibes are devastating. In the league of my own, spitting real talk energy. I know a little something about a thing called synergy. This is so ready, throw a sending masses awaken me, listen up, cause we about to set your mind, body, and soul free. All right. Welcome to another episode of the Real Talk Corner. And I have a special guest with me today, Madhavi Parikh. And I'm going to let her talk a little bit about herself before we jump into our topic today.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Ariana, for having me on your show. I'm excited to be here. My name is Madhavi Parikh. I am many things. But together, I am a physician assistant and a meditator, and I bring those two things into my life everywhere I go. I have been a PA for over 20 years, most of it in the field of medical oncology. Along the way, I got into integrative and holistic medicine more as a reflection of my life's journey, needing to heal from my own experiences from multiple parts of my life, and seeing that cancer does offer a huge chance at healing and taking care of yourself and showing up for yourself in a kind and gentle way.
Mhm.
So with that in mind, is how I got onto the integrative and holistic path. And along the way, I saw that patients and myself included, who incorporated all parts of the body, the mind, body, spirit, family, community, environment into their journey are the ones who did well. And so that is how I got into my clinical coaching practice of taking into account the spiritual, physical, intellectual, and emotional health of the person and integrating it in a way that speaks to them.
Wow. I wanted to ask you that because being that you have so many years in medicine, and we know that within like the past really like five, a little bit probably over 5 years, where a lot of physicians in medical, just in the medical field, are going more towards the holistic and understanding how that mind, body, soul, and spirit all kind of have to come together to really heal, right? So what really changed you to see that? What really sparked that change to say, you know what? It's not just about the medicine, it's not just about the treatment, it's about this other whole side. What was that for you?
So it started more as my own journey with healing. I grew up uh, in a family where very interesting that you had to be seen, like you had to be out there in the world, but you did not have to be heard. So
Mm,
trying to find my voice in that has been very has been a journey. That's all I can say. And this was in India while this was happening. And along the way, I did see all of life's experiences. I had a few deaths in my family up close and personal, different ways. Some
mm,
willful deaths, some not so willing, like young age deaths. All of that had an impact on me. I was sent to a boarding school when I was about 8 or 9 and stayed there for about 7 years. And it was a completely different background from what I grew up in. So having to adjust to, like, I went from a sort of a Hindu background to a Catholic boarding school. And so that impacted me quite a bit.
right.
And then I was told to get married to somebody in the US. And although I knew him, I did not know him. So I came to this country very naive and very green and not knowing how to live life. And
Mm,
so that was a part of the journey as well. And then my first job was in oncology. And that is where I saw how some patients did really well on their journey and some patients didn't. And that spoke to me for my healing as well. And
right,
along the way, I also became a parent. So I needed to be a better parent for my children than the parenting I had for myself. So
right.
all of that got me into meditation as well. So listening and observing my patients in the
Mm,
medical conventional oncology space and listening allowed me to listen to myself, helped me find a gateway within myself. And that is what then opened up my journey onto integrative and holistic medicine.
wow. What made you stay in oncology? Because it's a very difficult place to work because of the nature of cancer and how it affects, and you can see someone deteriorate. So a lot of patients deteriorate and change. So that's very hard. What made you stay there?
So when cancer can be sad, but everything in life is beautiful, I think.
Mm,
So maybe people are dying, but also with advances in medicine generally, people are living longer and longer. So that paradox of mortality in front of your faces
mhm,
against the extension of life, making it a chronic disease, was also something that I was observing in my patients and in my career. So that was also once you are on the integrative holistic journey, there is no destination, you just keep going. So
yeah,
cancer patients allowed me to continue to add to that and giving me insight, like it's important to forgive, it's important to surrender, it's important to let go. It's, that is where healing happens, whether we get cured or not, but healing becomes more important. And how do you connect with your loved ones, your family members? How do you become a more kind and compassionate person? Those are the things that I needed to learn, I think. And I got that insight from my patients, which allowed me to stay in there.
I love that. Can you explain how you kind of translate what you're doing with patients? Like, how does that happen? Because, of course, when you go in like the traditional medical scene, it's normally a bunch of jargon, a bunch of terms, and so how do you relate the holistic side of it when you're speaking to patients?
Right. So the way I say it is I help people who are cancering. It's not, cancering is a process. It didn't happen overnight and it's never going to end. So we have to remain on this journey. So I help with the internal and external factors that people experience on their cancering journey. So the external factors are the what is cancer, what are the treatments that it offers, how do I how do I take all that into consideration as I put myself on the path to healing from the cancer. But it's also about the internal factors. Who am I? What is it that I am bringing to the table and taking ownership of that so that I can change it? And that is something I learned from my meditation practice, is that I can give you all the advice you want, but if you don't do the work, which was I had to do the work to heal. If I didn't do the work, I would never heal. So
Right.
that is what I kind of connect with the patient. And so there are kind of six categories in my cancering journey, that are in one's cancering journey that I help patients with. So the first one is what is it that someone does when they are given a diagnosis of cancer and want to make sense of it all.
Mm,
The second one is needing, how do you decide what to do next, to do or not to do surgery, to do or not to do chemotherapy or radiation therapy, or do I go the alternative medicine route completely? Um, and in which order do I do all of that? So putting that together is something that I bring to the table as well.
right.
Um, and if someone is getting treatment, for example, how do we work on the side effects in a more integrative and holistic way that speaks to you? It can still be with the use of medicines, but what is the timing of the medicine? How does it fit into your schedule, for example?
Mm,
Do you need the full dose, or do you need half the dose or double the dose? Right. So listening to the patient is important in getting in understanding that and getting the outcomes that we desire.
mm,
um, and then there is, how do we take into account the mind, body, spirit, family, community, environment, all of that, and put it together in a safe way and a cohesive way, right? Like there is so much information out there,
right.
and it can come from family members and people who love you and who want you to live forever. Or if many people, sadly, unfortunately, don't have that, so then they turn to what I call Dr. Google, um, who gives us so much information that can be overwhelming and misleading.
Yeah.
So how do we do? And Dr. Google does have some good resources, but we have to use them safely and cohesively. And last but not the least, and many times the most important, is about the caregiver. So
Mm,
how do you be a caregiver so that you can be an active participant in the life of your loved one, but also your own life, and don't ignore yourself.
right. Right. Wow.
So that is putting it all together. And then there's a lot more, but taking into account the
Right.
spiritual health, what is their faith that they are coming in with, like what keeps them going? That's the internal landscape. What
Mm,
is their Where is it that they're coming from intellectually? When I say that, like, what is their understanding? All of us are at different
right.
levels. An engineer understands things completely different
Right.
from any other profession, or plumber or electrician or whatever it is. So kind of understanding that. And then there's also our physical health, but everyone's physical health also, you have to meet them where they are. And then it's our emotional and mental health. So integrating all of that person is how it is to work with someone who's cancering.
Right. Um, there is definitely a lot to any type of when you're going just through what you said, and I know there's so much more. I worked 10 years in a medical office with primary
All right.
care with geriatrics, so
All right.
I get the breakdown. So for people
Right.
who don't know, and it was crazy switching over to healthcare. It was crazy because it was so much you realize that you don't know about your own body,
Correct.
so much that we're not taught, so much that we have no clue, and we
Right.
just go and rely on the doctors for everything. You got to know everything about me. You got to know everything about what, how to treat
All
me,
right. All right.
how to take care of me. And we're never taught how to do that ourselves. So I love
Right.
that you're doing not only just the I'm guiding you through what you're going through, but also helping you get that connection back to body, because that's ultimately what's going to help us process whatever's going on,
Right.
also by listening to ourselves and sitting in that space of meditation. Now, do you sit with your patients and meditate, or do you have them go do it and kind of come back to you?
Now, it depends on the person. Not everyone is ready to do that.
Okay.
So in my first meeting, which can be between 60 to 90 minutes, I am asking the patient to tell me their story. What is it that brings them to us? How
Mm,
did you get here? And that, like I just say, tell me your story,
right.
and then we'll figure out where to go from here. So
Right.
that, and they ask me, should I tell you about my medical story? I'm like, just tell me whatever you want to tell me. So the medical story is a part of it, yet there is other things. So by giving that room, I am listening to where are they coming from, right?
Mm,
Like, what is it that's bothering them right now?
right.
And from there, if someone focuses more on that mental emotional part of it, then that's where I'm going to lead that discussion. If they're going through physical, like if they're going through chemotherapy and they're so fraught with the side effects that they can't have a good life, then that's where I'm going to focus. But I usually don't start with it with the first visit, but then at the end, I ask them if they want to do. And I start usually with the practice of breath awareness, just
Mm,
a conscious breathing. So just 3 to 5 minutes of showing them what it means to come back to the self. But that is without any judgment, without evaluation, without any opinion. So just put your hand on your belly, and we can practice it at the end of our thing as well. But just put your hand on your belly and follow your breath. And
mm,
don't change anything at all about your breath. Just let it come in, let it go out. Just but stay with it.
mhm.
And then I go into either before or after, go into an explanation of what the breath is about, because the breath is a direct conduit between our inner and outer worlds,
Right.
right? So if I become aware of my breath, then I am becoming aware of what is happening outside of me and inside of me. And I
Mhm.
see the back and forth interaction, that there is something happening here. This situation is happening, but it is making me tight. It is making me anxious. It is making me afraid. It is making me angry. I don't want to be in it. And then I start observing myself and noticing where are my, for lack of a better word, shortcomings. So
Mm,
I need to find that patience in myself. So if I slow down my breath, then I'm going to be more patient with you. Right. And that's my work to do it. That's not your work to do.
right.
So that is how I come into it. And then as I
Mm,
go as my relationship with the patient continues, then I either start with it or end with it, usually ending, because then all this information that is given to them, they can assimilate it and allow it to unfold as they go out.
right.
Because I am a heavy, I do offer a lot, like it becomes heavy
Right.
by the time they walk out,
Mhm.
and they're not expecting it many times that, wow, this was so much.
Right, right, because you're
That's
actually
right.
doing, like, counseling and therapy in so many ways. You have, like, the total package, and sometimes I think that that helps a lot of people just hearing you. You know, when people have stuff, a lot of times it's they need that outside person to
Mm,
kinda just let go,
right.
and, and a lot of them, probably you've seen this, where a lot of them are they have to be strong for the family, and they're trying to hold it together, and they don't want to look a certain way, and all
Right.
of those things.
Right.
But
Right.
sitting with
Right.
you, then you can kind of relax and release and let all of that go, which I think that's beautiful.
And it's also addressing the perception. So what does strong really mean?
Right.
What does perfect? Does it really exist?
Right.
Right? Or how does it exist? Why do I need to be there for everything? In what can I give permission? Where am I being too critical of myself?
Mhm.
All of those kind of things is also having that conversation is what we need, right?
Right.
Like my head can keep on telling me stories that I want to believe in,
Right.
but it's that different perspective that helps in opening up our horizons.
Yeah, I absolutely am someone who used to definitely be the one who had to or felt like I had to be strong or put on the face or never show like that anything's going on. And then now, my daughter is older now. So now I look back and I'm like, man, I did her a disservice
Correct.
because for her, she was like, life is great. Nothing's wrong. Mom's never
Right.
got nothing going on. Although mom's crying in the car or mom's crying in the shower because she's overwhelmed and overstimulated and has all this stuff
Absolutely.
going on. And I'm
Totally
like,
relate.
so now, we've done a lot of reversal of this to where it's like my daughter's a crier. She's totally different from me. She's a crier. But I'm like, they need to see that
Right.
life sometimes can be scary. It can be fearful. It can be overwhelming. There's a lot going on. And if we take that away from them because we want them to have this perfect life, well, what
Correct.
is that really giving to them?
Correct. So
So I
one of
definitely
the
believe that.
things that my cancer patients bring to me is like I am trying to have a positive attitude
Right,
and positive thoughts.
right,
And I say, okay, that's great, but this is being forced, right?
right,
Positive thoughts is just not like I am going to die and I'm going to change it like to I'm going to live. That doesn't change anything.
right.
So one of the things that many fortunately meditation brings a lot of what I call revelations.
Yeah.
So one of the things that made I understood, and these revelations are mainly understanding like why do you not, if everyone's jumping into a well, why are you not jumping into the well kind of thing, very corny, but it's like looking at the glass half full and half empty, right?
Mhm.
Like I can't, yes, but I can't keep on looking at the glass as half full, but it also remains half empty. So it's an and it also remains half empty.
Yeah.
And adding one more layer to it is that what is the glass filled with? It can be half full with poison,
Right.
or it can be half empty with nectar or whatever else that you like in it.
Right.
And it's that which is what we need to work with, right?
Mm.
And we need a little bit of poison to wake us up, to
Yeah.
stimulate us, and too much of a good thing can also kill us.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of working through those things, like giving it some thought so that we can understand, like, what is it that we're really doing with ourselves?
Right. Right. Definitely a opener. Like, I think any major disease or any illness that comes in kind of gets you
Of course,
a
yes.
place where you have to think. But I think being the kind of the champion to say, feel what you're feeling, right?
Yeah.
Allow yourself because you're going to be angry, you're going to be pissed,
Hmm.
you're going to start questioning a lot of things, right? And the why me's, and you're going to be the victim in the moment and sit with all those things. But being able to, I think, is a very important part of the
Right.
process. And I don't know if everyone, I can't say that every provider gives that space. So I love that you're doing that because it's like, oh, wait, I can feel this. I can be angry. I can sit and be sad for a moment and have my
Right.
pity party for 2 seconds, and then move forward.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there's so many things here. Like one of the things is the body keeps the score, and that's
Mm,
a beautiful book by it's a physician who wrote it.
mhm.
Bessel, Bessel, Van, Van, Der, two different words, and Kolk, Kolk. So he is a psychiatrist in the trauma space, and has done a lot of research. And the body is where we store our emotions. So if we are not dealing with that, then it's going to manifest itself in so many different ways. So it
Yeah,
can be mental or emotional health where it manifests. That's the most common. But it
yeah,
also, we hold it in our body, in our physical space. And that is where then we get the physical diseases like whatever chronic diseases they may be. So that's one component. It's not the only reason why we get diseases, but it is one of a huge component. But that, because it is unseen, we don't deal with it as much. So I may continue to do all the measures, take all the tools that are available to take care of my health,
mhm,
exercise well, eat organic, eat right, fast, do all of those things. but I'm still not healing. And
Right.
why is that?
Right.
Right. And that means that there is another angle that needs to be looked at.
Right.
And that is, but then that comes from going inward, that comes from reflection and contemplation. And that means that I have to allow God to talk to me
Mm.
instead of just me talking to God and asking that God to do everything for me.
Right.
Right. So listening is the part that is very important for us to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was one part, but then I lost the rest of the conversation, but it will come in other parts.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's crazy because that's really my field, trauma, dealing with a lot of people who have childhood trauma, and I'm going into psychology. So psychology is what I'm majoring in right now because of that, because of what being in the holistic side of things and seeing how things are, how we're just making these everyday decisions, but it's out of trauma, it's out of
Mhm.
scarcity, it's out of our,
Fear,
especially our childhood stuff, that's just sitting in there.
right.
And it has started to amaze me of how many people are walking around with all of these things going on and not even aware of it. So that's where I'm at now because I do believe that. I believe just like stress, we know that stress can kill. You can't see stress, right? Someone can be smiling and be stressed out. And I think that finally people are getting it, that there are all of these unseen things. Now I know that not every religion is going to be on the same page far as believing in generational stuff that's passed through generation. Some people call it generational curses. Some people just call generational karma, however you want to look at it. Do you ever see whether there's some people that just can get that or understand that if it's something that, because I know some people have it through their family, so they're like cancers run through their family, there's so many different people, which for me I would look at that like that's a generational thing going through them. But do you have anyone who kind of doesn't really get that or struggles with that at all?
Yes, but I don't. It for that, my relationship with the patient has to be very long term. And
Mm,
they have to kind of understand where I am coming from as well. So it becomes more of a friendship between a patient and myself. And it's
okay.
in that space that they would understand it. I do have three patients that come to mind, very different backgrounds, but who like they came to me for integrative
Mm-hmm.
to incorporate integrative holistic methods into their cancer journey, but over time realized that it was more on the spiritual side that they had to go on to learn how to surrender or to learn how to meditate properly or to one of them stage 4 breast cancer with bone metastases from literally top to bottom.
Wow.
Excuse me. And she has cured herself pretty much from the whole of it by getting into all these other mind body modalities like grounding and listening to binaural beats and breath work and yoga and acupuncture and all of that. And she's a mom to somebody, to a adult child on the spectrum who's going to be with her forever. And she said, I can't die right now, so I'm
Wow.
going to have to live. And when you start looking at that, it's usually coming from your very childhood, if you believe or you don't believe in past lives, whatever that past life may be,
Right.
right? Whether it's in this life, whether it was in
Mhm.
previous lives, you don't have to believe in it. You can believe in all of it. And yet we don't want to be held by that,
Right.
right? Like I want to work with the here and now. So who are you right now? Let's not get carried away with
Mm.
whatever all that was. It will unravel and reveal itself over time, but giving them baby steps to do it.
Right. Right. Definitely if you allow it. Definitely.
Yes, but you have to allow it, but that's a journey, right? And
Yeah,
not everyone is ready for that journey. And it's
definitely.
okay because you need resilience to go through that journey. It's not easy. One of
Right.
the other things through my own experience with meditation, I practice insight meditation, Vipassana meditation, and
Mhm.
that is dealing with your, like it's just me, myself, and I,
Yeah.
especially during a 10-day retreat. There's no talking, no reading, no writing, no nothing. You keep your gaze downward and you meditate for 12 hours a day.
Oh,
And
wow.
through that, I realized that the road to peace is fraught with violence. And what I mean by that is so
Hmm.
much turmoil happens within you that you have to be willing to go through it. You have to cultivate the strength and the resilience to be able to journey through that. And if you do that, then there is a lot of light at the end of that journey.
Right. I think one of the strangest and harsh realities that I've had on this path, and I've only been in my spiritual path, I think this is my fifth year kind of going on my spiritual path. I feel like one of the most harsh realities was realizing that the contrast we needed. We need the contrast in life. There,
Absolutely.
there's no life without it. So trying to find this like perfect place, perfect being, perfect all of this, quote unquote perfectness is kind of pointless because we can't learn like that. We wouldn't know
No.
what appreciation is unless we lose something, right? We wouldn't
Mhm.
understand it. So it was kind of harsh to understand that, but also in the same token, realize that this is why we have the things that we're going through, however it's displayed to us. And then that appreciation for life starts to get better and deeper, and getting to sit. So I love that the patients that are open for that with you, that are able to start taking that in, because once you do, you're looking and you're not just the victim and life's happening to you,
Right.
you
Right.
know, you're understanding that it's the experience and everything is how we use it, how we take it, and how
Right.
we give back, which I think is probably one of our great lessons, right?
So one of the things that you brought up about cancer, it being sad, right? Because it's making us face our own mortality
Right.
up front. We're all going to die.
Yeah.
That's like you said, the paradox of life, correct? But on this journey, then patients for the advanced cancer patients, it's understanding that I'm not giving up if I allow myself to end this journey,
Right.
right? So it's like surrendering into whatever life offers to us, with cancer being a way to transition versus something else, versus heart disease, versus a car accident, versus anything,
Right.
right? So but they get to a place where they can surrender, and they're not fighting anymore. And
Right.
one of the things about cancer is that about life is that you can't keep on fighting.
Yeah.
It's not a war. Cancer came from within you. It's not something that's
Right.
external. So it's telling you to go within. And
Right.
how do we do that? Is what I think I Spy Health is what I want it to be.
Right, right. I do. I feel and I know that everyone looks back on like 2020 as like this horrifying, and I know there's a lot if you look at it, there's a lot of bad, but I do feel like it came into to really get us to sit back, to slow down, and to start to go back within and to really connect back with self, because we're to go go go, do and all of this other stuff, and we're so disconnected from ourselves. How
Mhm.
many people really go outside and put their feet in the grass or just take that
Mhm.
moment just to breathe? Even
Mhm.
like learning how to breathe, you're like, wait a
Right.
minute, I don't even know how to breathe right.
A deep breath is
Right.
right versus the belly.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute,
Right.
I've never even breathed. I don't know. It's
Right.
like your first breath. So there's all of these things where you're just so not in tune with self. And we all are, we're all connected to God, source energy, whatever you believe in, directly. And if we
Correct.
just go within, we can feel that, right?
Right. We can find it. Absolutely.
Definitely. I absolutely love it. That's why I wanted to do this podcast with you, because I just one of the reasons why I came over to the holistic side to learn about it and just kind of learn everything. And not saying Hinduism is like the perfect practices, but it has a lot of stuff that makes sense when you're going through things of just connecting the energy. I'm a big energy person, so I believe in energy, the chakras. I believe in all of that because of just how sitting in I've seen these energetic spaces in meditations, craziest stuff, right? So but there's a lot of those practices I feel like that are just there and they're open and it, like not saying you have to jump over. I'm not saying anyone has to jump religions or any of that, but just doing these practices are opening up, just like yoga, like me learning yoga. The thoughts that I had about yoga before I came into this path were just like, oh, there's people just doing this, stretching, whatever, yoga. But then coming into it, and now I do chakra yoga, right? And so now, actually learning how it coincides with every breath, every organ, everything. And I'm like, wait, there's so much more to this than just stretching. There's so much more than just, this exercise that we think it is. It's really connecting with every part of us.
So the breath, right? Like if medicine just focused on breath, like
Hmm.
how do we breathe? How do we understand our breath? So there is the involuntary breath that keeps us alive. It comes and goes out. Then there is the conscious breath awareness, like you become aware of your breath, allow it to go in, go out. That helps us accept our reality, kind of gives us glimpses into what reality is and kind of allows us to accept it without judgment and opinions,
Mm,
right? And from there, we can then make better decisions because we are more aware of it. And
right.
then there is the fight or flight freeze breath, uh,
Yeah.
the the sympathetic nervous system kicking in, and
Mm,
we need that breath as well, depending on the situation, but we can't stay in that. And then there is the parasympathetic breath, the breath exercises, the pranayama, where it is a combination of we are putting a little bit of good stress and yet we are stimulating the vagus nerve to be
mm,
able to find that. And through that, we improve perfusion in our body. And if we improve perfusion in our body, muscles getting good oxygen, all kinds of muscles, then
mhm,
we are going to be physically better. And then we're going to, if I'm feeling physically better, then I'm going to make better choices about my health. And I'm
mm,
going to be emotionally healthier. And then I'm going to sleep better. And
yeah,
then I'm going to allow the spirit to come within me, whatever that spirit may be. So, if to me, if medicine just taught everyone how to about the breath,
right.
we would be in a better place.
We
And
would.
that is what I bring into all of this as well.
Yeah. It starts with that. It like I said, we're so disconnected. There's so much that we don't know, and it's so we're like now, okay, of course, looking at it, it's like this is so simple. Like, why weren't we taught this? Right where we just taught, because I've been basically pushed to slow down. My life has been
Correct.
pushed me to slow down and really sit with self and really get into those places, which now I'm like, I see why. I see why the push and how, not to say it's easy, because it's not easy, especially when you're so used to go, go, go and being in that kind of like, I gotta succeed or I gotta, whatever your goals are in life that you're doing, kind of hard to just sit back. But back to your cancer patients, have you found that does anyone have any like major challenges that you've seen them kind of facing when they're just kind of going through the process?
So, do you mean like everyone has challenges,
Well,
especially when they're diagnosed with cancer? So, at the
right.
time of diagnosis, for example, with conventional medicine being the good part of conventional medicine is that so much research has been done that
Hmm.
we have been able to make treatments, for example, algorithms, right? So if not you, but if one has breast cancer and this type of breast cancer, hormone positive, for example, then this is the first line treatment with these outcomes. If it's triple negative breast cancer, we
Oh,
have this. So there's an algorithm, right? But that also means that people, I feel, are put on a conveyor belt. So the
mm,
moment the mammogram comes back positive, then this is lined up for you, and before they know it, they're doing chemotherapy, they're fighting through, They're
Right.
being told, eat whatever you want, you can continue working using it as a distraction. And so then when they end it, when treatment is ended, that's when this is trying to catch up with this.
Mm,
Right. So they feel unseen and unheard, but they don't know that until they have some time and space to allow the mind and the body to catch up.
right. Right.
Right. When it's through treatment, for example, doctor's appointments, the doctors or physician assistants, nurse practitioners, those appointments are only 15 minutes. And it
Right.
takes that much time to kind of get your thoughts together. I have nausea, but I may not have the the knowledge base or whatever it may be to have it put all together before the appointment. So I'm
Right.
only thinking about it when I'm being asked about it. And
Right.
then that issue is not addressed.
Mm,
Right. And they feel like they're unseen and unheard in that space. And
right.
then there is into survivorship. And so there's the constant fear of recurrence. But
Mm-hmm.
again, you we are not taking into account, so there it's not about the physical body as much initially as it is about why the fear, what is the fear doing to you, what are you thinking. Let's go into the depths of that and then figure out how to use the physical, like how do you improve your diet, how do you exercise, what are your resources available.
Mm-hmm.
People with breast cancer, for example, have constant shoulder pain. So physical therapy can be very helpful. Let's utilize that. Or
Mm-hmm.
people who've had pelvic surgery for GYN cancers or prostate cancers, pelvic floor therapy is very, very important. So
Mm-hmm.
let's utilize that. Let's add in acupuncture to help you with your neuropathy that came from chemotherapy or radiation. Radiation also forms a lot of scar tissue, so massage therapy can be very beneficial. Which vitamins and supplements can we take to help when, right?
Right.
But right now with Dr. Google, it's like everyone wants to take a list that is a mile long and they don't want to eat properly. So
Right.
having that, but it's not like I'm blaming you that you're not eating properly and you're just taking a shortcut with the vitamins and supplements. It's
Right.
a conversation. There's no shame, there's no judgment.
Right.
That's what we have to bring into this as well. And so that intimidation goes away.
Right. Right. Yeah, it sounds like there is a lot more to it, and you just have to go case by case, really, because there's so
Correct.
many different, even within like one part of the body, there's so many different levels of cancer. It's not like you just have breast cancer. It's like all of these different
Right.
ones have, which I would lose my mind with all of that. All of that.
But that's the journey, right? Like whatever
Yeah.
journey one is on.
Right.
I
Right. Right.
couldn't do this in finance, for example, or I couldn't do it in psychology beyond a certain point.
Right. Right.
It's the integration of our journey, having done the work, whatever I experienced. And in many ways, I'm no different than anyone else. We are
Mm,
all unique individuals, but we are still the same.
yeah. Yeah.
Right, so your journey is not different from my journey or vice versa. So understanding that, allowing that, is a
Yeah.
big part of why I think the I Spy Health model and the way that the way that medicine is practiced, the
Hmm.
non-prescriptive way, is an addition to whatever else they're doing. So conventional treatment does have its benefits. It's
Yeah.
not to be dissed.
Yeah.
And alternative medicine can also kill us, but it also has benefits, right? So, how do we integrate the two in a way that speaks to you?
Right. Right.
Is what I want to do.
I do wish there were more. And like I said, I do feel like things are changing. I do feel there are a
They
lot
are.
more physicians that are on the same page where it's like we need to incorporate all of it and they're seeing the benefits of that. I think I even see like some hospitals that offer Reiki and stuff now, within their centers, which is really cool to see. It's really cool to see the change. It's really cool to see just the openness and not just shunning it, like,
Hmm. Hmm.
shunning it and understanding that, I do believe in mind, body, soul, and spirit. I believe it all comes together. And if you just focus on one, you're going to miss a huge aspect and
Hmm.
then wonder why you're in this space or you're stuck. And especially health wise, because I do believe in things being trapped in the body and in certain things that we
Hmm.
do to ourselves with our thoughts, that we can kind of create. Our thoughts are very powerful. So sometimes we can create a lot of stuff within us too. That's like, wait a minute, if I just sat here with this and figure that part out and connect the dots, in that way. But, maybe more people will be open to it, should I say.
We can continue the work and we can hope.
Definitely, I did have to go through a moment of, because I wanted people to like heal, and you kind of get into the pushy wanting people to get it, and then I had to go through that of just sit back and go, it's not up to me. I'm not here to
Correct.
save everybody. I'm here to do my part. So
Correct.
whatever my part is, and I bring that, and whoever gets it, and whoever doesn't, they have to kind of be okay with that.
Correct. And you bring up a good point. So that is where my I Spy health model also helps the caregivers,
Mm,
because the caregiver, we don't want to lose our loved ones, but at the same time, there is a technique and a skill to giving care,
yeah,
right? And the care receiver also has to learn how to open up.
yeah,
We are in a society where we are taught to be independent, and so when it comes to learning how when it comes to having to receive care, we feel like we are weak, we are not capable of doing it, it's hurting my pride, you know all
yes,
of those kind of things. So that's one part of the conversation, but the caregiver has to be reminded too that there is another person on the side, and let's take your feelings into account, and let's see where are they coming from what place are they coming, are they more selfish
right.
for you versus what is and understanding what is the other person going through, and if you were to go through that same thing, how would you want to be doing it, and not exactly in the same situation, because you and I will both have the same cancers, but we are going to go through it differently.
Right.
But having again a conversation to understand that process, which then allows them to kind of fit in more, and self-care, so that they're not just devoting themselves completely to the other person, they're learning to take care of themselves in the
Yeah.
journey.
I do believe a lot of the caretakers will get lost in
Correct.
whatever's going on. Like I've dealt with my mom, not with cancer, but with other ailments. And there was a point where I had to say, I can't take care of you. Like I'm trying to, which is becoming
Mhm.
overwhelming. But it was just like, I can't do this. So now she's in a facility because that's where she's going to better be. She can't walk. She can't do a lot of things for herself. Her kidneys are failing. So it's kind of at that point where,
Mhm.
she's on dialysis, and we're kind of coming to that point of, this is where you're at. But I think that has to be an honesty too on the
Mhm.
caretaker. I think most of it is like kids or siblings or someone, who's very close to the person, and you get like this guilt, like you have to be. I have
Mhm.
to be there. I got to do this, and it could take its toll on that
Mhm.
person as well, and not even realize it because you're walking around like you have to do things. But there's so much help out there that if you can't do it, if you need assistance, it's like, lean on them.
Oh,
let them
absolutely.
just
Right.
let them give you that break, because trying to handle it all, whew, that's not, and I see
Yeah.
a lot of people do that. A lot of caretakers do that. They're overwhelmed.
Mhm.
They're because it's emotions too. The emotions, not
Oh,
just even the
absolutely.
physical work of it, right? It's the emotional thing.
Connection.
It's the fears of death and all of those things that
Mhm.
come in. I do wish as a society we practiced kind of, I don't want to say celebrate death, but I wish we had more of that appreciation for it,
Mhm.
where it's not like, oh my God, we fear death, because it's like, it's coming regardless. It's going to come, like you said, it's going to be here, but we have
Death
this,
is a beautiful thing, and it can be an honor to be a part of someone's journey
right,
through that. And I have witnessed it in my childhood, and I get to witness it with my patients, and that is where I kind of get them comfortable as well. So those difficult conversations,
right,
having making them understand what is death,
right.
is something, and we can, once we start that conversation, which is why people see, like in hospice, that once people accept hospice
Mm-hmm.
early on in the journey, then they tend to live longer.
Right.
So
Right.
because again, you're not fighting it, you're not resisting anything, you've kind of surrendered,
Right.
right? So but I have to be comfortable about death in order to be able to speak about it.
Yeah.
So again, each one of us, in whatever it is that we do, have to go through our journey. And if we do that, then it allows us to kind of connect with the other person.
Definitely. I love it. Do you have any success stories that you can think of that you're just, it's stuck with you? I know you
So
see
many.
people.
Like the one I mentioned. So she's in her mid 50s, maybe, I think. Uh, she was a nurse in the orthopedic side, surgery side. So
Mhm.
a very high strung type A nurse personality. And each one of us, we pick our profession because of our temperament, because of our personalities, right? So nurses have something very specific about them, and they
Mm.
want to give, give, give. So that is how she was in this situation. And then she got diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer from top to bottom, metastases to the bone.
Wow.
And she did go through the conventional route, but the cancer continued to progress. And that's when she took matters into her own hands and said, okay, I need to figure out another way to kind of work with this around it kind of thing. So I used to be a part of a hospital system. So she was sent to me in the
Mm.
integrative medicine team because she had, I'm not kidding, a table full of supplements. And she
Wow.
said, I have to take these supplements and I want to fast, water only fast. In the conventional oncologists, yes, we do have these kind of departments where we offer Reiki and massage and acupuncture, but
Mm.
at the same time, we still remain within our very conventional, comfortable zones of way of practice.
Mm.
So that is why she was sent to me. And I said, look, I can't help you with the fasting part of it, but I do encourage it and I support it. And we can talk about these supplements. The best
Mhm.
I know, which I didn't know much at that time, but I said, you are also going to have to make these mind body changes because I found out about her background. And I
Mm.
said, you're going to have to give up your work. You're going to have to let go of all of these things. And you're going to have to understand that this is not a battle to be fought from the outside in. This is
Mm.
your journey. This is your fight to do. So we talked about a lot of the mind body techniques, and she
Mhm.
lived in a more countryside setting and had some woods to her benefit. So she started the grounding and the forest bathing and taking the supplements. She started doing her own research into fasting and the metabolic terrain of the body and what is it
Mhm.
that she needed to eat and not eat, what kind of diet. So she gave up all glucose, sugar foods. She became healthier in her eating habits. She incorporated acupuncture and she pulled herself away from things that were depleting her energy. So, work, for example, was one of them. You know, it's easy to kind of weed out people from our lives, but the other things are a little harder to see and do, right? And so to give up of income
Right.
for the sake of health is a harder decision. Like,
Yeah.
how do you do that? And then to convince your family that I need to do this.
Right.
And in this process, you have to become, it's not selfish, but you have to become self-centered. You have to look after you first before you look after others. So that was something that
Mhm.
she had to discover because
Yeah.
again nurses give 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 and they don't know that you have to look after yourself in order to look after others
Right.
better. So she did all that, And at her next scans, there was no progression of disease in 3 months. She
Mm,
began to incorporate slowly. Um, there was no progression of disease. And from there, it led to healing of the bone metastases. And then it continued the healing, and it has continued where she hasn't had any progression and she lives with that cancer,
right.
but it's not doing anything. Now
Right.
it has kind of been subdued
Mm-hmm.
to the point that she is in charge of herself versus the cancer being in charge. So the environment in which the cancer thrives is what needs to be changed. And that environment is the biology of the body as well as the biology of our belief.
Definitely. It's so it amazes me of how quickly things can change of just that, of just changing a job that, we're tied to, and it's like, I can't do that. Or, something as simple as that. And it's just like this whole change comes in health wise of the change. And
Oh, absolutely.
we don't look at things like a job, or, yeah, we're getting more in tune of people understanding how people affect us, but we don't think of the other things that
Mhm,
we do that can affect
mhm.
us. We're just like, oh, that's another environment. It's another environment that is either hindering you or not. They
I
say
was
nurse.
let go from my job, and it took me 3 months to get over that shock because a good income was lost.
Right.
It took then and another 3 to 6 months to kind of allow that body to shed all those things. And
Right.
then when people would meet me, they would say, "You look so relaxed." And here I'm trying to open up my own practice, figuring out the business of the business. Like, that's not my headspace. I don't know how to, I know nothing about business. I don't like social media. I don't know how to put myself in front of other people. But yet people said I was happier. I looked happier, and
Right.
you realize then that you're beginning to undo a lot of the things that have happened along the way, but you
Oh
need
yeah.
the time and space.
Oh yeah. It's crazy. I left the workforce in 2020 actually. And that's how I would hear people would say, you look so much better. And I was like, wow, all I had to do was quit my job and just kind of, figure it out after that. And I look so much better.
Right,
It's amazing how it happens. And I've
right.
never gone back. It's just kind of like one of those things of following. I believe in our journeys like you talk about. So I believe in allowing, whether you believe in spirit or your team or source or God, allowing that energy to pull me where I need to go. And one of the things that I've learned of sitting, I told you I've been like 2 years of just kind of sitting back and just processing, sitting quietly in a space where I can. And I've just realized how my body is catching up. My life has been very traumatic. So now that I'm in a space that I'm safe, I feel safe. My body is catching up. My mind is catching up. And
Mhm,
it's a different feeling. It's a different thing. And we don't realize
mhm,
that all of this goes together when we're finally getting out of whatever it is, whether it's a traumatic or trauma energy or that scarcity or or disease or illness or all of those things, that you do have to give your body and your mind time to process
mhm.
and come back together, right? And we don't even think of that because we're
To
constantly
connect.
we're
Mhm.
constantly go go go. I got to go do this, I got to go do that, I got kids, I got you, whatever. And we don't give ourselves the time to just say, okay, let me give myself the time, not put a time limit on it, like, oh, you only got
Right,
3 weeks.
right, 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 right.
So
Absolutely.
beautiful, beautiful. I know we have to wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming on
Thank
and
you.
just talking about this. I think that what you're doing is epic, and I think that it is a game changer. I think when people, whoever comes into contact with you, they're gonna have a different experience. And I absolutely love the way that you do things and the incorporation with all of it because it's so important. And I just hope more physicians follow you.
Thank you.
I'll have any links that you give me, I'll have them in the description so you guys can go and check her out, find her, work with her if you need to. And then, like I said, Thank you again. Anything last you want to tell our listeners and viewers before we leave?
Um, Breathe and be kind to yourself.
Beautiful.
That's yeah.
Major, 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 major. We think that's small, but it's not. All right, you guys, until
Thank
next
you so
time.
much. Yes.
Bye.
Bye bye.